Good. How you guys doing?
We're doing great.
Awesome.
How did it feel, man? Right there on the sidelines, they go to you, just like old school, man, just like old man McDonough, just like you. Very disappointed.
Yeah.
Very disappointed. No schoolboy cap on top of your head.
I definitely should have gone with a scally cap there, right? Yeah.
How did it feel, man?
I'm not quite Irish enough for that. I do have Irish blood. I do have, on my dad's side. I'd say I'm about a quarter Irish. I don't know what the genealogy is exactly there, but yeah, no, I maybe at some point once I earn my stripes there, I'll break out the scally cap. I don't know if I can. I don't know how well I'd wear it. Again, I might not be quite Irish enough for it.
So, Albert, let's talk about our Bears because the offensive line had a rough first 2 weeks. The interior of the Tennessee line was a problem with Tavondre Sweat at 366. This week, it was the edges in Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson. So David Bakhtiari's out there. There's Mason Cole. There's a handful of guys out there. How does this get fixed?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is do you, when you're assessing it, think what you've got is good enough? Is Braxton Jones good enough at left tackle? You paid for Nate Davis, so you assume he's going to stay there at guard. Darnell Wright, the expectation is he keeps getting better. He was obviously a very high draft pick. But yeah, I mean, I think the hope would be that this continues to get better, that week one was a blip and that week two is a result of playing, one of the better defensive fronts in all of football and one of the better pairs of edge rushers in all of football. So, it's not ideal. The center position, I think, is definitely one you can look at. I think Mason Cole, as you mentioned, is somebody that has the versatility to play all over the place, including at center. But I think it's the reality of it is that you didn't invest quite as much in those positions as you did the skill positions, and so you're leaning a little bit more, especially left tackle and player development, and right tackle also, even though the guy's a higher pick, and you hope over the course of the year it gets better.
So overall, looking at the Bears on Sunday Night Football against Houston, I think the expectation was the Bears were going to fall short. But is there anything that stood out most about the Bears to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think Hoodie, defensively, based on what they were up against, I don't think it was bad. I think it was a pretty good effort overall. That offense is going to score on everybody, and I think you guys got a good look at how good CJ really is. They were able to get to him a little bit, which is good. Obviously Nico made his plays, but they were able to kind of get a handle on Steph Diggs and Tank Dell. So I think defensively there were some silver linings there. I just think right now, it looks like that's the way the team's going to have to win games, right? They're going to have to play a certain style as Caleb gets more comfortable. And I do think you saw strides from Caleb. Now, I wouldn't go as over the top as Collinsworth did. I love Chris, but he seemed more excited about slants underneath than I've ever seen anybody. But
yes.
but I do think that the larger point that Chris was trying to make there is that Caleb is learning to play on time, and I do think that there's a process for him, and I think you're seeing this play out in real time of learning what he can get away with and what he can't get away with, right? And that's a big picture thing that I think is going to take some time to get through. And he's working his way through that now, and it might be frustrating at times to watch it as it happens, but I do think he'll get there in time. And look, we didn't get to see Mahomes as a rookie, right? He got to do some of this stuff behind the scenes. So the fact that you're playing him right away is part of it, is that you're getting to see that process play out right in front of your eyes instead of it happening during any sort of redshirt year.
So the Colts look like they're going to be without DeForest Buckner this week. He's got an ankle injury. Latu, their top, pick in the first round, looks like he may miss the game, their defensive lineman. So the Bears may get a couple of breaks there. What is going on with this Colts team? That's 0-2. They lost to Malik Willis. They were a favorite at Green Bay, and Green Bay said, we're going to run the ball down your throat, and you can't do anything about it. 265 yards later, they didn't.
I would be really concerned about the Colts defense right now. And is the scheme working for them? That's an upfield scheme. Everybody knows it's the old Seattle scheme. It's probably the one of them that's out there. It's like maybe the most unchanged from what it was in Seattle all those years ago. And it really, it's predicated on getting guys upfield and creating havoc in the backfield. And, the fact that you had a Packers team that, I'm not exactly Buddy Ryan over here, and I could tell you what the Packers were going to do to the Colts. You know what I mean? Like, the Packers were, based on their situation and where they were at with Jordan Love out, going to line up and try to run the ball right at the Colts. And in that first quarter, I believe, I'm going to look it up again, but I think it was like 20 carries for. Hold on, I've got it here. So this is just the first quarter, right? So this is when, you're in your game plan stuff, and when you're probably, you should be most ready for whatever's coming. So in the first quarter, the Packers ran the ball 20 times for 164 yards. Malik Willis threw it just twice. Think about that run-pass ratio. That's the sort of run-pass ratio we had running the wing tee in high school. You know what I mean? And they still couldn't stop it. So I think, that's where the Bears are going to want to come at the Colts this week is, get DeAndre Swift in that run game going early. I think that gives them a chance to get the offensive line feet underneath them. And, ultimately it'll give them a better chance to protect Caleb and get Caleb playing on time more often. So, if Buck is out, which it looks like he will be, if Latu's out, that, also will hamper the Colts' ability to rush the passer, because those are probably the two best pass rushers. Really, on face at the beginning of the game, it looks like you would want to test the Colts the same way the Packers did, and the way the Packers had a lot of success with them at Lambeau on Sunday.
Will Young get an opportunity to start again this season, Albert?
I think maybe it depends on how Dalton plays, how the team plays. It's an unconventional move. I do think after digging into it a little bit more, I think this had to do with whether or not you can sell Bryce Young to the team anymore. And, as a first-year head coach, Dave Canales needs to, set a standard and hold everybody to that standard. And, I know, having talked to some Chargers people about what they saw on Sunday, they saw a kid who, I guess, really having trouble seeing, which is where the height thing comes into play, right? Really having trouble seeing the field, and has issues right now looking at the rush, and his eyes are dropping. And that's, sort of the kiss of death for a young quarterback, right? Like, once you start looking at the rush and protecting yourself against getting hit, now, like, you're undermining the entire offense. And part of it's not his fault. Like, part of that's a result of getting hit that much, but one way or the other right now, it's not giving the Panthers the best chance. And so if you're going to sell him to receivers, to running backs, to, offensive linemen who aren't worried about your 3-year plan at quarterback, who are more worried about, like, what's going to put me in the best position to win right now, to perform individually right now, and ultimately get paid, then, you have to be on the level with those guys. And if there's a guy in there, a quarterback, who is not doing that, then, you have to really consider making a change. And that's sort of where they are. It's a really, really tough place for a franchise to be in. I don't know what the road out of this becomes with Bryce Young. But certainly if Andy Dalton plays well, it's going to become more difficult to get Young back in there.
If you were a really, really good franchise that knew how to develop quarterbacks, Green Bay, for example, would you call Carolina and go, I'll give you a 3rd-round pick right now? Cut your losses. I'll take him and see if you could save him.
It's a good question. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think that would be something I would consider if I liked him coming out. A 3 might be rich. You know, generally teams like really value those top 100 picks.
Yep.
But I might have the conversation. I don't think the Carolina Panthers would do it at this point. I mean, things are so messy there right now, Cap.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I don't know where, you know, like where if you're them, you could justify like letting go of him after all you gave up to move up to trade with the Bears to go and get him. You know, it's just a really tricky situation. You know, so I think like at this point, the value he'd have to another team doesn't match up with what you'd have to give the Panthers to get them to give up on him completely, you know? So, and look, like, I mean, I think we can all point back to Tua as the situation as, you know, where someone was able to come in and dig him out of a pretty deep hole, right? Like, so, you know, like if you want to go back, like, you know, Tua's first 2 years weren't much better than this, you know, with Brian Flores. And then in year 3, in comes Mike McDaniel and everything changes, right? Like, so I wouldn't say he's completely a lost cause. I would say like it'd be hard to match up that value where, you know, a team you could match up what a team was willing to give up to go and get him as like a future sort of prospect, with, you know, what it would take what it would take for the Panthers to get to detach from the investment they've made in him.
You saw it, Albert, up close and personal, what happened with Tua in Miami.
Yeah.
So what is the likelihood that Tua plays again this season if he's cleared?
I'm not ruling it out. I mean, I can't find very many people around him who are saying, no, he's not playing this year, you know? And I think this is a difficult thing because I think all of us, our sensibilities say, you know, I mean, I've covered the league 20 years. I've only seen the fencing posture twice, and it was both times it was with this guy. My understanding of that is that it's a sign of a very serious brain injury. It's involuntary, an involuntary reaction from the brain to a serious concussion. And so, like, I think all of our sensibilities say, like, you know, like I wouldn't want my brother, my son, you know, going out there again. And I mean, you heard Tony Gonzalez said it on our post-game show. It's like, that was my son. I would tell him to hang it up, you know? Now, like, that's one side of it. That's our sensibility. The other side of it is like the psychology of a pro athlete. And this is what's so hard about it, guys. I mean, you guys have been around enough of these guys to know, like, it's just, I mean, can you imagine being so good at something like that it became your identity when you're a kid, when you're a teenager, and then when you go to college, and then you can become a millionaire because of it. And there are only so many people in the world that can do what you do. And you are this elite at it that there are only like X amount of people that have the job that you have. And like then at some point in your late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s, someone taps you on the shoulder and tells you can never do that again. And that's for a guy who's healthy, right? Like that's for a guy who has a normal career, is that eventually that cap comes on your shoulder where it's like, now I got so much more of my life to live and my identity has been stripped from me. Now imagine it happens this way, you know? I mean, a lot of us just think like, oh yeah, this is an easy decision. If you're Tua, take your money and go. The psychology of a pro athlete is much different than that. You know, I think Teddy Bruschi did a great job of articulating it on Sunday, you know, why he came back from a stroke. It's just, you know, again, like our sensibilities would say, like the smart thing to do is to walk away from football. So for these guys, it's just not that easy.
Albert, have an awesome week. Can't wait to see you on Thursday Night Football. We'll talk to you in a week. You're the best.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.